things have been kind of crazy for a while now. I mean, we've had ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. I just feel like maybe we should do something a bit more down to earth. That's supposed to be the charm of found footage, that greatness can come from simplicity. Such as following the lives of deranged serial killers. No, I'm not talking about Man Bites Dog. It's capture, kill, release.
I know when you started you didn't know where the movie was gonna end.
Don't turn upside your camera!
You fucking lied.
The depths we're going to plunge this week is not for the faint of heart. Partly inspired by Man Bites Dog, Capture Kill Release is a criminally unrecognized horror feature, retelling the events which had two lovers descend into the absolute darkness of the human heart. A young couple documenting their foray into murder. They record everything as they fantasize, plan, and finally commit a senseless butchery of an innocent man. It's a story of death and depravity, a close study of the bestial nature of the human heart, and the monsters that may hide in the most innocent smiles. Kind of. I wouldn't say the movie really has any themes, it just documents the process by which two people commit murder and the fallout of their actions. I'm kind of tempted to put it on the drama, but that's besides the point. What's important is you better strap in, because this is gonna be one hell of a ride. The film opens to foreshadowing, with a 911 call set to eerie, distorted sonoscope visuals. Strange considering this movie isn't actually set in the 80s, and I call it foreshadowing, but it doesn't really tell us much because good luck figuring out what the hell they're saying. You got crazy eyes. Should I be scared of you? This is Jessica, played by Jessica Fraser. She's the girlfriend of Farhang, played by Farhang Ghajar, and they're really cute together. The movie wastes very little time giving backstory or personal details about either of them, which I appreciate because when does that ever not seem awkward and unnatural for home movie makers? The movie keeps focus on what's important, which is fucking. Or not, as Jessica falls asleep while Farhang touches her. It's played for humor, but it's also the first hint their relationship may not be as solid as it first appears. That'll be important later. What's important right now is that they're planning to kill people. No one specific, just people. Which demands a lot of preparation to make sure they can get away with it. This allows us to get to know them a bit better. Jessica is outgoing, carefree and passionate, while Farhang is more restrained and careful. They bounce well off of each other, but there's also a very clear power dynamic going on, with Jessica having a need to be in control, and for things to be done her way. Interestingly, this is the only movie Jessica Fraser has been in as far as I can tell, meaning this film ended her career before it even began, or she's at the bottom of a Canadian dumpster somewhere. You'd think I'm kidding, but the credits make it very clear, while no animals were harmed in the making of this film, they did have to kill 4 people. Shame, because she's actually a very good actress. Or is she? She's far more concerned than Farhang about how to go about it, with very clear fantasies about what she wants to do. That's not to say she's automatically an expert, as her desires clearly overpower her research in how to go about it. She describes how she wants to knock her victim out, drag them down into the basement, wait for them to wake up so they know what's happening, that's very important, and then proceed to strangle them, after which she will have them bled into the tub so they won't stink, and then cut their body parts up, put them into plastic bags, and then drive them into the forest where she will bury them. The strangling before bleeding thing, that I can forgive, that's part of her fantasy. But burying the body parts in plastic bags, no, terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. First of all, you would need somewhere where no one freaking goes. I mean, you'd need to go deep into the forest to do that, and meaning you would have to drag those body parts into the forest. And I don't know if you know this about bodies, they're freaking heavy, okay? And then, when you get there, you are left with this big mound of dirt that will be an eyesore. It'll stick out like a sore thumb to anyone who walks by. And even if enough time passes for vegetation to grow on the mound, you'll still have preserved the body parts in plastic. It's like she stopped thinking as soon as the fantasy ended. All murder starts with fantasy. It's the practicalities of life that gets in the way, such as deciding who on earth to kill when it can't be someone you know. It's a surprisingly difficult question, and weirdly entertaining to watch these two try to work out. So far it's all just speculation and imagination. No one's actually dying yet, and so long as they stay within that safe space, then it's all innocent and fun. Right? They seem to think so, as discussing how to drain a body gets the both of them so worked up they decide to make a porno. By the Puritan standards of America, I'd say this film could be classified as erotic horror, but to me, we need a minimum of an orgy among human offals for that. Quit teasing us and get to the bloodshed!
Nice camera.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Gary, played by Jon Gates, all but serves himself up on a platter for Jessica. He's homeless, so he won't be missed, and fantastically trusting for someone who lives on the street. He'd be absolutely perfect, except Jessica runs into Rich Guy. And yes, that is his character name. Which is funny, because the guy playing him is called Rich Piatkowski. He's rude and patronizing, and Jessica insists that he called her a cunt. Which he did at no point, but Jessica is convinced he did, and that's a good enough reason to kill him.
Don't worry, we'll cut him up with this awesome new saber saw that I just got, huh?
It's endearing for Farhang to show some initiative, as he's been somewhat along for the ride for a while now. He even got a pair of handcuffs to lock up their victim. Not that Jessica appreciates it, as he got them from a sex shop, and she leaves him locked up in the basement to prove how easy they are to get out of. So much for good intentions, I guess. Later, they decide to visit Jessica's mother, played by Jessica's mother. There are a few nods and references to Man Bites Dog sprinkled throughout the runtime, such as Farhang comparing the weight of the camera to 2 dead babies, and much like Benoit Poulvord and his family, Jessica's mother wasn't briefed that they were making a movie. They just turned up with the camera, and their interactions are supposedly 100% natural. I say supposedly because her mother ends up asking why they bought a new camera when she has an old VHS camera lying around from when Jessica was a kid. And they end up using this second camera in the later stages of the film. And you're telling me she brought this up naturally and they just decided to go with it? Or, I don't know. It confuses me because the whole point of this scene seems to be to establish that second camera. Well, and give us some foreshadowing.
Like, what kind of stuff did she film? What did she...
I didn't believe the cats always landed on their feet, and I might have filmed this. It might be in one of the tapes.
Oh my god.
Oh, great. Yeah. Give me more reasons not to like her. Still, it's tell don't show. It's not like she actually killed a cat on camera. Where are they going with this?
Baby. Could you please do me a favor and fill up the sink?
No animals were harmed in the making of this movie, right? Holy shit!
Fucking cat tore me to shit.
Uh-huh. So, that's a thing. Basically Jessica got tired of the both of them pussyfooting around and decided to warm up by drowning a pet cat. And then left Farhang to clean it up. Easing him into the whole thing, maybe make something happen. I mean, he hasn't exactly been eager, you know. Even when Jessica dragged him along to stake out the rich guy's house, completely dismissing the fact they were in broad daylight and easily spotted, and they discovered not only is he a rich asshole, but a rich asshole who cheats on his wife. Obviously he deserves to die, but Farhang isn't moving with the program. Jessica is by far away the most accurate portrayal of psychopathy that I remember seeing in any movie. She's narrow-minded, completely unable to see things from any other perspective than her own, and whenever she's made to take responsibility for her actions or is confronted with reality, she either deflects it or ignores it. And this doesn't make her a superior being or an elevated bad guy or an unstoppable monster that just outsmarts you at every turn. She's actually very careless and impulsive, doing things without really thinking them through. She just assumes things will go her way just because. And I like that. It means if this film has any sense of poetic justice, she will die with her head slowly cooking in a microwave. But where does this leave Farhang? With Jessica taking center stage, there hasn't been much to say about him, but all of this has finally started to become real to him. Talking and fantasizing about murder, yeah, that's one thing, but seeing his girlfriend murder a cat in cold blood has made him realize that maybe she's actually completely insane! Farhang is about to become a very interesting character because, of course, he's damaged in some way or he wouldn't have let things go as far as they have, but he's reticent to go much farther than they already have, and it's very much Jessica urging him on. He's in love with her and accepts her darkness, but he seems to hope he can make it go away by loving her in spite of her homicidal tendencies. I'm not saying he's right, but it's a very gripping drama. The issue with selfless love is how it assumes complete devotion will be enough for a paramour. Farhang comes home to find a chilling surprise. Jessica has invited Gary home for dinner. And he came with her?! I mean, yeah, she was nice and she gave him money and offered him warm food and clean clothes, but has he never heard about the spider and the fly?
That's Gary. He's gonna be our dinner guest tonight.
Well, Jessica did! The dinner experience is less than comfortable to Farhang, who is even unable to eat knowing what Jessica is planning. I mean, she just sprung this on him with no preparation and forced him to socialize with the man they're going to murder. Suddenly that faceless victim has a face, a human face with an innocent mind, and he's not so sure he wants to kill him. Jessica tries managing Farhang, promising she hasn't poisoned the wine or the food, and if he wants to drive Gary home or to a motel, he can. Except Gary up and falls asleep. He's a very helpful victim, I must say. The act plays out exactly as Jessica planned it, allowing Gary to wake up to realize what's about to happen. It's uncomfortably real and serious, making you question why this is happening, only to realize the film hasn't given any answer. And it's so horrifying, Farhang has to drop the camera.
Don't move that goddamn camera, otherwise it's all fucking nothing. You're ruining my shot.
But that's the horror, isn't it? There is only one reason this is happening. Because Jessica wanted it to.
Okay. Now the hard part.
Which she plans to leave to Farhang. Seriously. Even though throughout the film she claimed she would do everything together with him, they'd do all of it together, she assigns the butchery to Farhang while she holds the camera, forcing him to clean up her mess. Wow! I will say at the very least she makes the first incision, opening Gary's neck to drain into the tub. But the way she gleefully dances about and jokes around is absolutely tasteless. And then she demands Farhang takes the saber saw.
We don't need practice. You can just do
It's
it.
not about practice. It's about I did that part. Now it's your turn to do yours. Give me the camera.
The dismemberment is extremely graphic, with blood spurting everywhere and the whole limb shaking as the saw hits bone. If I'd found this online with no way of tracing the source, I'd believe I stumbled across a real snuff film. It's also very apparent that neither Jessica nor Farhang knows what they're doing, because they did a very poor job placing the body for it to bleed out, evidenced by the buckets of blood and the fact that it starts to stink long before they're done. It makes an already bad situation even worse for the miserable Farhang, but at the very least it can't get worse.
I think it sounded like the door, babe.
Ooh, this will turn out well. They can't just leave the person at the door, all their lights are on, people know they're home. So Jessica pulls on some clean clothes to run up and greet them. It turns out, of all the things it could be, it's a lady in tears asking if they've seen her cat. Farhang is forced to listen as Jessica talks to the crying lady, telling her they haven't seen her cat, but she's really sorry and hope it comes back home.
Babe, calm down. She was just looking for her cat, okay? Cat's long gone.
Burning off the fingerprints and pulling out the teeth, something which makes me wince even when knowing Gary's dead, they finish up and move to bury the body.
We're not out of the woods yet.
No, we're going into the woods.
Yeah, but he has reason to be nervous considering when the film crew shot this scene, a cop car did pull up to take a look at what they were doing. I feel my point about burying a body has been made.
Put the camera down and help me.
Babe, I'm documenting the process.
It's gonna take all night if you're just fucking filming the whole thing.
Can I just get a little bit more of you digging? Like a little bit more of you digging?
No, you can't. No, you fucking can't.
I can't say for sure, but I feel like Farhang may be frustrated about something. A sentiment Jessica doesn't share. While Farhang falls into bed jaded and miserable, she can barely contain her urge to squeal. It doesn't last though. The very next day, the rush she felt is gone, and she seems the most mellow and bored I've seen her all movie. She even starts having imaginary conversations, trying to relive the night again.
I think I'd like to make a cheers to you guys. There, you know, you take me into your house and you treat me like family.
Oh, come on, we all like to reenact conversations we've had, or answer questions in imaginary interviews, or have profound conversations with creative personalities that don't even know your name. Nothing crazy about that. Having finally faced the reality of their fantasies, Farhang is appalled by what they have done. And while he has blood on his hands himself, he directs the disgust he feels towards Jessica.
What are you doing? I thought this was over.
Well, we still have
We
it.
did everything, no?
Yeah.
Why don't you understand that I don't want to see it right now? You can't piece together why I'm uncomfortable with it?
She may literally be unable to do that. Psychopaths are empathetic chameleons. They can mimic human emotion very well, but they don't actually feel it and they can't sympathize. So she may not be picking up the subtle clues you're emanating on why you're uncomfortable when so far you have been nothing but supportive of her. From her perspective, it's you not making any sense. I'm just playing counselor here. The number one cause of unhappiness among couples is a misunderstanding and deceit.
Promise me that it's over.
Okay, I promise.
Alright, so...
There you are, you fucking little rat.
Yeah, of course. There's an elephant in the room Farhang tries to ignore. Subtle clues Jessica may in fact not have moved on. Like, if it's really over, why hasn't she put the fucking camera away? He's starting to feel like a prisoner, like he's been manipulated all along, and wants to break out. Coming to a fevered pitch when he realizes Jessica hid the camera to record them having sex. Dude, your girlfriend is a yandere. You've effectively gone and put your dick in a bear trap. I wouldn't piss it off. But remember, there is another camera. An old VHS camera Jessica used to have when she was little. How convenient the movie bothered establishing that. Which still confuses me. You're telling me it was just sheer dumb luck that the script called for a second camera and her mother just so happened to bring it up in conversation? Or did they go in shooting the scene blind, not knowing what would happen, and then just changed the script after the fact? Either way, it's very convenient that they got an old glitchy camera right at the climax.
Oh, this is gonna be so much fun.
In a perverse sense of self-righteousness, Jessica has decided to make a point of what a piece of shit the rich guy is. He's tied together with his mistress, played by Christina Schimmel, who has a needle full of cleaning fluid in her neck, and Jessica offers the rich guy a choice. She can take the needle out and let his girlfriend walk away free, or he can save himself and let her die. So will he kill her to save himself, or take the syringe for her? Because that's how it works. Putting the choice in someone else's hands means they're the murderer, not you. And given how treasuring and optimistic this film has been about the human condition, it may come as a shock that he actually wants to live more than he wants his side chick to live. Who would have guessed? Still, I must commend this film because even now it takes these trite old horror cliches and rejuvenates them in a way that's actually horrifying. This isn't fun murder. This is murder.
Oh, shit. Are you getting this? Shit.
She takes so much joy in humiliating the man for daring to cry, like a fucking baby, after what he just did. She's rather surprised when Farhang comes home, but still plays it off like it's no big deal. And even if it is, this is the piece of shit she wanted to kill. It's his fault Gary's dead. She didn't want them to kill Gary. It just has to be done right.
I just want to do this right, and then it'll be like before. It'll be fine.
No, it won't.
This is the breaking point, and the whole universe is chattering as Jessica demands that Farhang kills the man, switching between sadness, anger, and fear and romance, like an empty ghost box desperately hoping to say the right thing. And even now, Farhang still tries reasoning with her. He's still trying to bring her to her senses, trying to hold on to a sane world that makes sense and bring her there to him, to save her from herself. But as she boils over and smashes the rich guy's head in herself, Farhang tries wresting the hammer from her, only to... which wasn't as satisfying as I'd hoped. For one, we don't get to see it happening, but mostly because this wasn't Farhang's Harlequin moment. This wasn't him rebelling against his abuser and escaping the emotional torture chamber his lover put him in. Observe. The only thing left is to bookend the film. Farhang makes the same 911 call the film started with, in a very fragile state of mind. He just killed his girlfriend, he's surrounded by video footage, there's a body in the corner, and the rich guy somehow survived. Not a bad thing at first, except he won't fucking shut up!
Shut the fuck up! Shut up! Shut the... Oh my fucking god, shut the fuck up!
And that's it. This is how the story ends. Victimized and complicit, framed by and devoted to his love, Farhang summarizes what's going on in his head. Even now, he still loves Jessica. He did everything for her, he even killed the guy for her. And come what may, he accepts his fate as the police breaks down the door.
Well, at least you got an end to your movie, right?
Thank fuck we did! This film's a goddamn masterpiece! Capture, Kill, Release takes the relatively familiar concept of homicidal maniacs living unassuming lives and portrays it with a believability films like this seldom receive. It's a wildlife documentary of natural-born killers, illustrating the steps a real-life murderer may take from fantasy to practical reality, and it doesn't shy away from anything. It's ugly, it's intense, and truly disturbing. I consider myself a fairly jaded horrorphile, but I still found myself questioning why I was even watching this film, as more often than not it wasn't a fun experience. I'm not holding that against it, a horror film that's actually horrifying is a success, but it will be some time before I willingly watch it again. Its uncompromising depiction of Jessica and Farhang feels more real than any crime thriller I have memory of watching, and it was a morbidly fascinating rabbit hole to dive down. Fraser hands down stole the show as Jessica, an unrestrained psychopath with few if any redeeming qualities. She wasn't comic booky or a melodrama villain, but a textbook psychopath with homicidal tendencies hidden well beneath a mask of normalcy Farhang mistook for her true self. It was dreadful to see how fluidly she shifted from threatening to warm and inviting, and still there was a flawed humanity to her that made her feel all the more real, and all the more horrifying. That's not to say it's a completely flawless film, as it falls down on its use of clichés and a very defined plot structure that stands out like a sore thumb as soon as we figure out what kind of people the characters are. Farhang is meek and oddly innocent in stark contrast to Jessica. Farhang pines for what he loves about Jessica, hoping he can please her so all the bad stuff will go away, while Jessica is a completely single-minded psychopath who's just discovered the thrill to kill. As soon as that root of the conflict is exposed, it was pretty clear how it would end in tragedy, as Farhang would be unable to change her and one of them would kill the other. Many film enthusiasts will want to slap me for saying this, but I don't believe a plot structure is necessary for horror films, and in the case of found footage, it can be downright harmful. It needs a sense of pacing and rhythm, of course, but when the film presents itself as reality, a plot will only draw attention to the fact that it isn't actually real. Bringing me neatly to the veracity of the film. By and large, the film does a great job portraying itself as real. The two cameras used are distinct from each other with their own pros and cons, and what few distortions there is, are faithful to their respective source, even if they were added in post. While there is no BGM, there is some audio-visual effects added in, and I wasn't going to complain about them, as the film basically implied whoever survived would edit the footage, but the way it ends caps that. No matter what happens to Farhang, the cops would confiscate the footage as evidence, meaning it can't be altered and absolutely not distributed, so yeah, there is no way the footage could be real. This film does a fantastic job as a horror film, delivering a very uncomfortable story in a pleasantly familiar plot with a clear bad guy, conflict, poetic justice, and resolution. While not a perfect found footage film and a bit too intense for me to enjoy, it's nevertheless an impressive cinematic achievement that personally I consider a modern classic. I judge Capture Kill Release to a 9 on a scale of 11. Well, that was refreshing. Nothing like a good nightmare to ease your anxieties about the holidays coming up. Speaking of, Sweden isn't very good at celebrating Halloween, and I'm terrible observing holidays at the best of times, so don't expect too much, but you can at the very least expect a few Halloween-themed reviews. Thank you all for watching. I have been Cole Scratches. Make sure you follow my main channel, where I do artsy-fartsy stuff, my Twitter and my DA, and I hope you will join me again next time to take another look at what I found. They just turned up with the camera and their interactions was supposedly natural. Hallå? Meow. Säger du det? Nej, här var det inte bra.